am Peggy Reyes from Branson International Film Festival, and I have the honor of being able to speak to G.Kendrick today. And he was here at our film festival for Branson 2021 and got to meet you and speak with you. So we wanted to make sure that we shared you with others who may not have gotten to speak with you or come to the festival this year, and a little bit about who you are and what you do, and what you've got going as far as projects are concerned. So I'm going to read a little bit about what we know about you, to share with everyone, and then I'll let you add to that as we go. So I've got a few questions for you, but I'm sure that you've got some things that you would like to say as well. So what I know is that you are based in Austin, Texas. Right. And that you started your acting career at Dallas Theater Center. Among many other productions, you were an original cast member of the Preston Jones, The Oldest Living Graduate, Luann Hampton, Laverty, Oberlander. Oberlander. Boy, that's a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah.
And The Last Meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolia, which came to be known then as the Texas Trilogy. You have had 27 acting credits, starting with The Trial of Lee Harvey Oswald in 1977 to current short film, is it Chupacabra?
Yeah.
Chupacabra. Yeah. You began your career on camera career focusing on commercials and corporate educational content. Spent a number of years in Los Angeles, where you successfully pursued a career in commercials before returning to live and work in your native Texas.
That's
Does that
it.
sound right?
Thank you so much. That was nice talking to you.
So that's a little bit about what we know, but tell us about gosh, you've had quite a journey, Texas, LA, back to Texas, an actor from the 70s, now turning to camera and commercials, and what an awesome career you've had. And as you look back, is there a pivotal time in your career that kind of catapulted you forward, do you feel?
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, I didn't know I was going to be doing this career, and almost kind of didn't in a way, because I was very shy as a kid and really wanted to be in theater in high school, but was too afraid to try out, or to go to the drama class until my senior year in high school, and I decided, well, that's it's now or never, and just fell in love with it. I knew that I was home. I knew where, I was doing something that I was meant to be doing. And so started doing plays in high school, and then majored in speech and drama in college, and went on to the Dallas Theater Center, which of course was all theater. But while I was in Dallas, I started doing commercials and got lucky and just started working in that market right away. So after 3 years at DTC, I just started freelancing in Dallas and did a ton of commercials and what we used to call corporate industrial, and now they're educational. So so that's that's kind of how it started. But I just developed a love for on-camera work, and moved to Los Angeles and started working right away in commercials. Was lucky enough to do that. Then there were certainly a number of ups and downs along the way. It's never just smooth sailing, even if it's a calling, which I believe, this is what God called me to do. It doesn't mean it's all been easy, So,
right. Yeah. So for you, as a Christian, in that industry, especially being in LA, how did that work out for you in being able to be a Christian, I guess, in that environment?
Well, there are a lot of Christian actors and directors and producers and writers in Hollywood. People talk about Hollywood sometimes, and it 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 gets a deservedly bad rap on some issues, but there are a lot of us. It's not like you're the only one.
Yeah.
And but you know you have to learn to draw lines on things you will or won't do, and you just make that clear to your representatives, and you know hopefully you know things work out there. I mean I've as it's turned out, um, I've had done almost no faith-based type films in my career, and it's almost all been secular. I've had a
Yeah.
really hard. I've tried to get into faith-based projects, and it's you know just haven't hasn't happened really to speak of.
Yeah.
So you know for whatever reason that is, but yeah, I love the business. There's no place I love more than being on set as an actor. It's just a it's you know it just feels like home when you step on a set and in front of a camera. And of course, as the years have gone on, and I've learned more about and developed some craft and skills, it's not scary, it's not nervous, it's fun.
Yeah.
The hard part is getting a job. You know,
Right. Right.
doing the job, that's the fun part.
Right. Once you
Yeah,
get that booking, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say was your favorite role in your career so far?
Uh, You know, it's hard to say. I'm a character actor, so every role I do is different. You know, I'm mostly a supporting player, so you know, I may come into a project for a day or a few days or a week, or if you're lucky, a few weeks or months. So every character is different. I've played everything from truck drivers to doctors, you know, and so everyone's different. But one of my favorite characters actually goes back to an old episode of Walker, Texas Ranger, where
Okay.
I played a character named Carney, who was a mentally challenged witness to a crime, and it was sort of interesting. I went to Dallas for to read for the producers for a completely different role, and the casting director came out and said, "Hey Tommy, can you do MHMR?" And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And they said, "Well, it's at that time it's probably a term that wouldn't be used today, but it
Right.
was mentally handicapped, mentally retarded."
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure, let me see it." And it was such a well written role and everything, and so you know, I worked on it for just a few minutes and went into the room to read for the producer and the casting director. And I just told him, I said, "Hey, I have a take on this, and I'm going to do it. And if, you know, we'll just see what happens." And I knew when I left the room that I had the role. I mean,
Yeah.
I just felt like I had it. And
Right.
that's one of my favorites of all time. Uh, as a sort of backstory on that, we have some really good friends who had a daughter. She's since passed away, who has Down syndrome.
Hmm.
And so my one concern, because I used a particular type voice and speech pattern in the role, you know, and my one concern was that it be believable and not that no one would perceive it as making fun of someone who
Right.
had, you know, an issue. And so, and the person I'm speaking of was a huge Walker Texas Ranger fan, and so I was had before good fortune to be on it a few times, and every time I was on it, her name was Kathy would, and I would see her, she would just go really nuts, wanting to, you know, talk about the show and all that. She was just such a great person to be around, so enthusiastic and loving and everything. And
Right.
so I didn't want her to be upset or think I was making fun of her
Fun.
or in any way, right? And so when
Right.
I saw the family after the show had aired, her mom said, "Well, you would fit right in on our Saturday night dance." So,
There
so,
you
uh,
go.
so I said, "Well, okay, I think that's the best
Then
review
you
I've ever
nailed
gotten."
it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
awesome.
I
How
think that's
fun.
one of my favorite. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of
That
fun.
sounds, and I think, you know, I did some, you know, theater in high school, but I wouldn't say I'm an actor or anything like that. But I think that just putting yourself into a character that's not you, like it's so foreign from you, is probably fun in the challenge of being able to do it and do it well.
Yeah,
So
you do that, but you also find a way to use who you are, and especially in film acting, it's maybe a little different. A stage is much more presentational, and film acting is really all about what's going on in the eyes. And so you know, you try and bring yourself to each role to make it unique, because everybody that auditions for a role will be able to audition well, probably at a certain level, and they'll be able to do the lines, and they'll read the scene correctly. But it's what each person brings to it of themselves that can make it special, and that helps you get cast.
Right, right. That's awesome. So you were at the Branson Film Festival this year because of your short film
Right.
Called The Dark Places.
Right.
And it appears that this was your first director's credit. Are you planning on doing more directing?
Probably not. I hadn't anticipated directing The Dark Places. When Leanne Morris, who wrote it and who I produced it with her, she had somebody in mind to direct the film, and I was okay with that. But we very quickly developed some, I guess, creative differences. They just wanted to do things a little differently than we had envisioned for the project. So I said, well, you know what? I've been doing this a long time. I'm perfectly confident that I can do the role acting wise, and I think I can do it as a director as well. But I have to say, I would never have attempted that had we not had our great director of photography, James Burgess, already lined up. I'd worked with James before. He is a fabulous cinematographer, and I knew he was going to know exactly what to do with the camera. I wasn't going to have to try and tell him how to do his job, nor would I even attempt to. He's a consummate professional. And so I knew that he would be able to help me as well, and take a lot of the load off of some of the things the director might ordinarily do. Without him, I wouldn't have done it, but it turned out okay. But you know what? I never, even after 40 something years in the business, I never understood how easy actors have it in terms of our place in the production. We learn our lines, we show up for how many ever days we're working, and we shoot the number of hours of days we're shooting, and then we go home.
Right.
And behind us, we leave directors and producers and crew and people who've been there hours before we arrived at set, and leave hours probably after we leave from set, and they still have a lot of work. It is so much work. I'm an actor at heart and by craft, and so I don't know that I'll direct again. I would never direct and act again. I don't think. It's a lot of work.
A lot. Yeah. It seems like it would be a lot. Yeah. And then you won several awards along with your friend on another project. Bradley Hawkins with Calf Rope. And if any of you were at the film festival this year, you would know that Tommy was on the stage quite a bit, having to accept awards on Bradley's behalf. And so how important is it, Tommy, for you as a filmmaker and in the film industry to stand in the gap for your peers and your, those that you work with?
Well, it's really important. And we're not competing with anyone. I don't view the film business or even acting or other actors as a competition. If I'm meant to get a particular role or whatever, it will come my way. I don't harbor any animosity toward anyone or any other filmmaker. And Bradley has won so many awards, and his team with Calf Rope. I mean, I don't know, it's probably 200 or more awards in film festivals.
Wow.
Such a good film. And so I expected they would be winning some awards, and he asked me if I would, accept for him. We had developed a friendship over, I've never met him in person, only online. I saw a graphic about Calf Rope probably a couple of years ago, at least, maybe more than that. Since COVID sort of blurs the perspective of how much time has passed. And I thought, man, oh man, that I want to know more about that project just from this photo that he was putting online. So I got in touch with him, and I started liking and sharing his posts, and we developed a friendship over time. And I couldn't be happier for all the success that Calf Rope has had, and I was delighted to be able to stand in for him, which he asked me to do. And,
Right.
I had no idea I would be on stage so much. I should have realized it for all the things he was up for, because he won a ton of awards, and then we won a
Did.
few as well. So
Yes.
it was
Yes, you
nice. Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say, so the dark places,
Mhm.
I know that it probably not just our film festival, but can you share with the audience like what's happened with the dark places since our film festival?
Right. Well, it's still going out to a few festivals. We're really winding down the festival process, because it's been on the festival circuit now for over a year, and that's all been jumbled up because of COVID. What was
Right.
great, one of the great things about Branson is it was an in-person festival, and it was
Yes.
close enough that we could make it. We could go to the festival, because I'd say 98% at least of the festivals that we were accepted into and screened at, we couldn't go to because of COVID. And then
Right.
some of them were, we screened in a couple of festivals in Wales. We actually won Best Short Film at two different festivals in Wales, for heaven's sakes. So the
Nice.
film's kind of been in a lot of different areas, but we won awards at 14, I think, at 14 different festivals, and every award, through the different festivals, not at every festival, we've won, best film, best narrative short, best faith-based short, best cinematography, best actress, musical
Yes.
score, whatever you could be nominated for. We've been blessed to win those at some point along the line. So once the festival run dies out completely, and it's very close, we will decide where we will put the film so that everybody can have access to it. Because
That
that's
was
what we
gonna,
want. Yeah.
yes. So that was going to be my next question is if someone wants to see the dark places, can they see it now or we have to wait for the film festival circuit to be
Yeah,
over?
and unless depending on what happens in upcoming festivals to which we have submitted, if we are accepted in some, and we're still waiting to hear, and they have an online component, then usually, it's available for a few days at least during that festival, where
Mhm.
where someone could see it. But until then, we can't make it publicly available, because that disallows it from a number of festivals. They don't want it to be
Correct.
shown publicly. So, but the other thing we want to do, because this is a film, it's a faith-based film, even though it's called The Dark Places, that deals with the subject of self-harming and depression. And so what we'd like to do is make it available to churches and support groups and counseling centers, so that they can use the film as part of their ministries or as part of their counseling, so that they can use it as at least a conversation starter for people who are struggling with what is a terrible epidemic. And with COVID, it's only gotten worse.
Yes.
Suicide rates are up, all those things. And self-harming is something that was an epidemic worldwide. And it's men, boys and girls, adolescent to early 20s primarily, but it's also can be people who carry that
Mhm.
behavior into adulthood. And
Right.
it's no respecter of gender or religion or ethnicity or culture. There are people who unfortunately turn to this as trying to heal themselves and the pain they have inside.
Right.
And that's why we wanted to bring light to it. Our thought was about the film is that and one of the things that people know the most about self-harming is cutting. People cut
Right.
themselves, and it brings on an endorphin rush, and it momentarily, very briefly, takes them away from the pain that they're feeling inside from whatever the reason. Whether it's abuse of some sort or depression or whatever has triggered this, they get this relief just very briefly. And our concept obviously is that as people of faith, we have a Savior who already has bled and died for us, so that He can take that burden off of us. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to try and heal ourselves, because it's never going to work. And if you
Right.
ever see someone who's involved in self-harming, you may see the scars on them. There's not one or two. Typically, it's dozens and dozens and dozens because they have to do it over and over and over again because the effect doesn't last, you know.
Right.
And so that's the sad part of it. So we hope,
Right.
we
No,
hope
we
the
hope
film
the film
can be a ministry to somebody in that way to just, get somebody thinking in a different direction.
Right. And what a great message,
Thank you.
a message of hope. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what Leanne Morris wrote the script, and I think she did such a wonderful job. And we worked on the script for a year. She did all the writing, but she would send me pages and say, "Hey, what do you think of this scene? Or what do you think of this?" And most of the time I think, "Oh, that's great, keep going." Or sometimes I would say, "Yeah, I don't know that works so much, but what about this?" And she'd go off and try that. So she was very generous in her collaboration. She did all of the writing, and she did a terrific job. I'm just so honored to have partnered with her, and for her to ask me. She generated the project, so she asked me to come aboard, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yes, for sure. And so it will be great when you all who haven't been able to see it are able to see that. So how would someone then, Tommy, know when it would be available and where it would be available? Can they connect with you somewhere or somehow?
Absolutely. First of all, we have a Facebook page. I haven't been real active on Facebook recently. I got kind of burned out on Facebook over the last few years because it became so politically toxic. I just got tired of it. But we do have a web page, a Facebook page for The Dark Places. I think it's The Dark Places movie, it's called. And you can find it there. Certainly we'll make announcements there. But I'm all over social media, generally speaking, and I have the same handle everywhere. It's at Tommy G. Kendrick. And you can find me on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. Under that handle, all of those. So I'm always, and believe me, once we decide where we're going to position it, we've had offers for streaming services that want to stream the film, and we're considering some of those. Some we had to say no to because they basically wanted ownership of the film, and we don't really want that to happen. But we'll be praying about it and looking for where God has the best outlet to position the film so that the most people can see it.
Yeah. Now, do you think that film could be a full feature?
It was never intended to be. Certainly, the subject matter is worthy, and there have been films that have dealt with it. Not from a faith-based point of view, though. They've all been secular, and some of them have been exploitive and that kind of thing. But so I don't know. We never envisioned it as a feature, and that would be really up to Leanne if she thought she wanted to tackle that. I'd be willing to listen to it, but I don't think that's in the cards as far as I know.
Right, unless God's got a different plan, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're always open. Yeah, it's such a features are done in a few different. Shorts in a few different ways. Some of them are done as basically as quote unquote commercials for a feature film or as a proof of concept for a feature, but some are just meant to be short films. And I love the short film form myself, and have over the last few years of my career done quite a few shorts, and I really enjoy it. It allows an old character actor like me to get to play maybe more substantial roles, and also both the shorts I've produced or had a hand in producing have had a faith angle to them, so that's important to me as well.
Right. So Austin seems to have a growing film community there. What are some benefits of living in a city that strongly supports the film industry?
Well, Austin has had an indie film scene for decades, actually. And I'm not sure it's quite as robust now as it once was. There's a thing called film incentives that states use to attract film production to their communities. Everybody's a lot of people have heard about that, I'm sure. What's happened over time is we in Texas had so much film work, it was unbelievable. but we let it slip away first to Louisiana, and now Georgia is just absolutely
Hmm.
second only to Hollywood, and in some cases
Yes.
doing more feature film production than Hollywood's doing,
Yep.
because their legislature saw the potential, and
Hmm.
they ran with it. But it is great. There are an untold number of artists here. It's not just filmmakers. There are a lot of novelists and writers and screenwriters. It's just a creative community. So if you can get
Very
out
much so.
and find those people, it really is inspiring to get to see what other people are doing, and to be support for each other. It's pretty cool, really, to be in that sort of an environment. Yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah. And Austin is a beautiful city,
it is.
as well. So my husband
Yeah.
is from Texas. He's from Houston,
Oh,
but
okay.
we visited Austin a couple of times. So
Right.
it is a beautiful city.
It is. It's
Yeah.
like every place else is going through a lot of changes. But I grew up in Beaumont in Southeast Texas, so not
Hmm.
so far from Houston.
Right.
I don't miss the humidity. It's
Oh
not
no,
not that it's perfect here, but yeah, Austin's is a beautiful city, and
it is.
so many different things to see, and many environments, from the lakes to the hills, and
Right.
everything. It's really great. Yeah.
So do you miss LA?
I miss friends in LA. I have to say,
Gotcha.
there was a time when I also missed LA. I mean, I'll never forget when my wife and I took an exploratory trip the year before we moved out to LA, and I got out of my little VW Bug in front of a newsstand to pick up a Daily Variety, and the atmosphere of the business, I don't know, it just hit me in the face, and I went, wow. People talk about LA being so laid back, and everybody's laid back, and all that, but the energy there was so different from what I had experienced in Beaumont and even Dallas, that
Right.
I knew that I knew God was calling me to that place. It's just the way I viewed it. So I do miss it. I miss it much, much less in recent years because of the political climate. I mean, there are things I just couldn't tolerate, I think,
Right.
if
Right.
I were there. But still have great, great lifelong friends in LA, and communicate with them often. And
Right.
that's one of the good things about social media and Facebook and other forums,
Yes.
is being able to keep up with your old high school friends, or your friends from different stages of your life, and stay connected, and see their kids and their families, and be able to pray for them when they're sick and their families are sick, and those sorts of things.
Right.
That's an important and very positive thing
It
about
is.
social
It
media.
is. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. Well, we just want to thank you so much, Tommy, for taking your
Oh,
time to meet with us here and do this interview. It was great for me personally to get to meet
oh,
you and get to hang out with you for a few days. So hopefully you'll come next year's our 5th year
wow.
anniversary for the film festival.
Right.
So I'm sure Deborah's got a couple of surprises up her sleeve for the 5-year anniversary. And so we look forward to maybe having you guys come to that again. And
Oh,
then
thank you.
for you who are here watching, we just want to thank you for supporting Branson Film Festival. Again, if you have not gotten on our newsletter mailing list, if you go to our website, it is bransonfilmfestival.com. Put your email in there, and then it'll get you hooked up to our newsletter. These interviews are all going to be there in the newsletters, and then it'll attach it to this YouTube video and to our YouTube channel for the film festival. So again, Tommy, thank you so much.
No, thank
Uh,
you, and I just want to thank you and Deborah and everybody. You guys work so hard. It's so much work to put on a film festival, and it was so great to be able to meet you, and to meet other filmmakers and artists who are there, and to form a sort of a community, at least for a
yes,
time. And that was
yes,
so great. So thank you very much for all
yes.
you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you guys, and have a good night.